What happened when my straight best friend slept over? True gay love story. I woke up to find Jake's arm draped across my chest, his face buried in my neck, our legs tangled together under the sheets. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might wake him. This wasn't how best friends were supposed to sleep. This wasn't how straight best friends were supposed to hold each other. But as I felt his warm breath against my skin and the weight of his body pressed against mine, I knew everything between us had changed last night, and I had no idea what to do about it. Let me back up. Jake and I had been best friends since freshman year of college. We met during orientation week when we both got hopelessly lost trying to find the engineering building and ended up at the art department instead. We laughed about it over a terrible cafeteria coffee, and from that moment on, we were inseparable. 4 years later, we'd survived countless all-nighters, failed exams, relationship drama, and everything else college could throw at us. Jake was the kind of guy everyone loved. Tall, athletic, with this easy smile that made people feel instantly comfortable around him. He played intramural soccer, had a girlfriend named Ashley for most of junior year, and never seemed to struggle with the things that kept me up at night. He was confident, straightforward, and completely, frustratingly straight. Or at least, that's what I'd always believed. I came out to Jake during sophomore year. We were drunk on cheap beer at someone's party, and the words just tumbled out of me. I'd been carrying the weight of that secret for so long, and suddenly I couldn't hold it anymore. I remember the panic that flooded through me the moment I said it. The fear that I'd just destroyed the most important friendship in my life. But Jake just looked at me, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Dude, I don't care. You're still my best friend." Nothing changes that. And nothing did change. If anything, we got closer. Jake became the person I could talk to about everything: my fears, my dreams, the guys I had crushes on. He'd listen without judgment, offer advice, and sometimes tease me mercilessly in that way only best friends can. He came to pride with me. He stood up to people who made homophobic jokes. He was, in every way, the perfect friend. The problem was, somewhere along the way, I'd fallen completely in love with him. I tried so hard to stop it. I dated other guys. I put distance between us when the feelings got too intense. I reminded myself every single day that Jake was straight, that he'd never see me that way, that I needed to protect our friendship at all costs. But feelings don't listen to logic. Every time he laughed at my jokes, every time we stayed up late talking about nothing and everything, every time he showed up at my door with coffee because he knew I'd had a rough die, fell a little bit harder. Senior year was the worst. We decided to get an apartment together off campus, just the two of us. It made financial sense, and we'd always talked about living together. But sharing a space with him, seeing him first thing in the morning with his hair messy and his voice rough from sleep, watching him move around shirtless in the kitchen making breakfast tight, was torture. Beautiful, agonizing torture. I became an expert at hiding my feelings. I laughed when he talked about girls he found attractive. I gave him advice when he was confused about relationships. I pretended my heart didn't shatter into pieces every time he brought someone home. I built walls so high around my feelings that I convinced myself I had it. It's under control. Until last night, it started innocently enough. Jake had a rough week. His thesis defense didn't go as well as he'd hoped, and his professor had torn apart months of his work. He'd come home devastated, and I could see the defeat in his eyes. We ordered pizza, put on his favorite action movies, and I tried to cheer him up the way I always did. But something felt different that night. Jake was quieter than usual, more introspective. He kept looking at me with this expression I couldn't quite read, intense and searching, like he was trying to figure something out. Every time our eyes met, I felt this electric current run through me, and I had to look away before he could see what was written all over my face. "Can I ask you something?" Jake said suddenly, during a quiet moment in the movie. "Of course, anything." He hesitated, picking at the label on his beer bottle. "Do you ever feel like you've been lying to yourself about something important, and you don't even realize it until something happens that makes you see things differently?" My heart started racing. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. It's stupid." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I knew meant he was nervous. "Forget I said anything." "Jake, come on. You can talk to me about anything. You know that." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and the intensity in his blue eyes made my breath catch. That's the thing, Alex. You're the only person I can talk to about anything. You're the only person who really knows me. And lately, I've been thinking about what that means. I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing with possibilities, with hopes I didn't dare let myself feel. What has it made you think about? Everything. He set down his beer and turned to face me fully on the couch. My whole life I thought I had everything figured out. I thought I knew exactly who I was and what I wanted. But lately, Alex, I can't stop thinking about how wrong I might have been about some really fundamental things. The air between us felt charged, heavy with things unsaid. I could barely breathe. Like what? He moved closer, and I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Like why I get jealous when you go on dates. Like why I can't stand the thought of you being with someone else. Like why every relationship I've tried to have with girls has felt empty compared to what I feel when I'm with you. My world tilted on its axis. This couldn't be happening. This had to be some cruel dream or a misunderstanding. Jake, what are you saying? I don't know. His voice was barely a whisper. I'm confused as hell, Alex. But I know that when I'm with you, I feel more myself than I've ever felt with anyone else. I know that I think about you constantly. I know that the idea of you with someone else makes me want to punch walls. And I know that's not how you're supposed to feel about your best friend. I should have said something. I should have asked him what he meant, or told him how I felt, or done something other than just stare at him with my heart hammering in my chest. But I was paralyzed, caught between hope and terror. Am I crazy? Jake asked, vulnerability written all over his face. Tell me I'm crazy, and we can forget I ever said anything. You're not crazy, I managed to say, my voice shaking. Then what is this? What's happening to me? To us? I don't know, I lied, because the truth was too big and too terrifying to say out loud. We sat there in silence, the movie playing forgotten in the background. The space between us felt like miles and inches at the same time. I wanted to close that distance more than I'd ever wanted anything in my life, but I was terrified of what it would mean, of what would happen if this went wrong. I think I need to go to bed, Jake finally said, standing up abruptly. I'm probably just exhausted and emotional from this week. I shouldn't have said any of that. Jake, wait, no, seriously. I'm sorry. Forget I said anything. He was already walking toward his room, practically fleeing from me. Good night, Alex. His door closed, and I sat there alone in the living room, my mind reeling. What had just happened? Had Jake just confessed feelings for me, or was he just confused and vulnerable after a hard week? Was I reading too much into it because of my own feelings? Should I go after him, or give him space? I stayed on that couch for hours, replaying every word, every look, every moment. Eventually, I heard Jake's door open. I turned to see him standing there in the dim light from the hallway, wearing only his boxers and an old t-shirt, his hair messy and his eyes uncertain. I can't sleep, he said quietly. Me neither. Can I? He hesitated. This is going to sound weird, but can I sleep in your room tonight? I don't want to be alone. It wasn't unusual for us to crash in each other's rooms after late-night conversations or movie marathons. But everything felt different now, charged with new meaning. Still, I nodded. Yeah, of course. We settled into my bed, both of us lying on our backs, staring at the ceiling in the darkness. The silence stretched between us, filled with all the things we weren't saying. I could hear Jake's breathing, feel the warmth of his body just inches from mine, and I had to fight every instinct to reach out and close that distance. Alex. Jake's voice was soft in the darkness. Yeah, I wasn't just exhausted or emotional. I meant what I said earlier. I've been feeling this way for months. I just didn't know how to make sense of it. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. How long? I don't know exactly. It wasn't like a switch flipped. It was gradual. Little moments that started adding up. The way I'd look forward to coming home to you more than anything else. The way my day felt incomplete if I didn't talk to you. The way I started noticing everything about you, the way you laugh. The way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. The way your eyes light up when you talk about things you're passionate about." He turned onto his side, facing me, and I did the same. In the dim light from the street lamp outside, I could just make out his features. "When you went on that date with Marcus a few weeks ago, I felt like someone was tearing my chest apart," Jake continued. "I couldn't eat. I couldn't focus. All I could think about was him touching you, making you laugh, being the one you looked at with that smile you get when you're happy. And I realized I didn't want to be your best friend anymore. Or I did, but I wanted to be more than that too, Jake." I breathed his name like a prayer and a question all at once. I know I'm probably a mess right now. I know I've identified as straight my whole life, and this is all new and confusing as hell. I know I might be risking the most important relationship in my life by telling you this, but Alex, I can't keep pretending anymore. I can't keep lying to myself about how I feel about you. He reached out slowly, hesitantly, and placed his hand on my cheek. His thumb brushed across my skin, and I leaned into his touch despite every part of me screaming that this was dangerous territory. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. "Tell me this is a mistake, and we should forget this conversation ever happened. Because if you don't stop me right now, I'm going to kiss you. And I don't know if I'll be able to go back to just being friends after that." I should have stopped him. I should have protected us both from the potential fallout. But I'd wanted this for so long, dreamed about it so many times, that I couldn't make myself say the words that would end this moment. "Don't stop," I whispered back. Jake closed the distance between us slowly, giving me every chance to change my mind. But I didn't want to change my mind. I wanted this more than I'd ever wanted anything. When his lips finally met mine, it felt like everything I'd been holding back for years came rushing to the surface all at once. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative and exploratory. But then Jake's hand moved to the back of my neck, pulling me closer, and something shifted. It became deeper, more urgent, filled with all the longing and confusion and need we'd both been hiding. I tangled my fingers in his hair, and he made this small sound in the back of his throat that sent shivers down my spine. We broke apart, both breathing hard. Foreheads pressed together. "Holy shit," Jake breathed. "Yeah. I've never—" He trailed off, his hand still on the back of my neck. "I've never felt like that when kissing anyone before. Jake, we should talk about this. About what it means, about what happens now. I know. We should. But right now, I just want to." He kissed me again, and all thoughts of rational conversation dissolved. We fell asleep, tangled together, crossing lines we'd never crossed before, saying things without words that we weren't ready to say out loud. And somewhere in the early hours of the morning, Jake pulled me close, wrapped his arm around me, and buried his face in my neck like it was the most natural thing in the world, which brought us to this morning. With me lying awake wondering what the hell happened next, I felt Jake start to stir against me. His arm tightened around my chest for a moment before he suddenly went completely still. I knew he'd realized where he was, how we were positioned, what we'd done last night. I held my breath, waiting for him to pull away, to panic, to regret everything. But he didn't move. He just stayed there, pressed against me, his breath warm on my neck. "Alex." His voice was rough with sleep and something that might have been nervousness. "Yeah. Tell me I didn't dream last night. You didn't dream it?" I let out a long breath. "Okay, good. I mean, is it good? I don't know. I needed to know it was real." "It was real," I said softly. Jake finally pulled back enough to look at me, his eyes searching my face. His hair was a mess, his lips slightly swollen from kissing, and he'd never looked more beautiful. "Are you okay?" I didn't push you into anything you didn't want, did I?" "No. God, no. I wanted that. I wanted all of it." The admission felt huge, terrifying in the morning light. Relief flooded his features. "Okay, good, because He ran his hand through his hair, that nervous gesture again. "I don't regret it, Alex. I thought maybe I would. Thought maybe I'd wake up and panic and want to take it all back. But I don't. Is that crazy?" "It's not crazy. But I'm also scared as hell," he admitted. "I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to be. Whatever this is, I don't even know what to call it. Am I gay? Does it even matter? All I know is how I feel about you. I sat up, needing to see his face properly for this conversation. Jake sat up too, and we faced each other in the rumpled sheets. How do you feel about me? He looked down at his hands, then back at me. Like you're the most important person in my world. Like I want to be around you all the time. Like when I picture my future, you're always there. Like the thought of kissing you makes my heart race and terrifies me in equal measure. Like maybe I've been in love with you for a while now and just didn't have the words for it. My breath caught. Jake, I know it's fast. I know I'm probably supposed to be more cautious or take time to figure myself out or whatever. But Alex, I've already spent 4 years figuring out that you're my favorite person on the planet. I've already spent months feeling this way without knowing what to do about it. I don't want to waste more time pretending or hiding or being scared. What about the fact that you've always said you were straight? What about all your relationships with girls? I don't have all the answers, Jake said honestly. Maybe I was lying to myself. Maybe I'm actually bi and just never let myself look at guys that way before. Maybe it's just you. Maybe you're the exception to everything I thought I knew about myself. I don't know. But does it really matter? Does it change how I feel? It matters because I need to know you're sure about this, I said, my voice cracking slightly. Jake, you're my best friend. You're the most important person in my life too. If we do this, and it doesn't work out, if you wake up in a few weeks and realize you made a mistake, I don't know if our friendship survives that. I don't know if I survive that. You think I haven't thought about that? He moved closer, taking my hands in his. You think I'd risk losing you if I wasn't sure? Alex, I'm terrified of screwing this up. But I'm more terrified of never trying, of spending the rest of my life wondering what we could have been. I need you to understand something, I said, looking directly into his eyes. I've been in love with you for over 2 years. I've spent every day of that time telling myself it would never happen, that I needed to get over it, that I had to protect our friendship above everything else. So this isn't new or confusing for me. This is everything I've wanted and everything I've been afraid to hope for. If we do this and you change your mind, it won't just hurt. It'll destroy me. Jake's eyes widened. 2 years? 2 years, I confirmed. Maybe longer. I don't even know anymore. It's been so long that I can't remember what it felt like not to be in love with you. Why didn't you tell me? Because you're straight. Or I thought you were. And I valued our friendship more than my own feelings. Jake pulled me into a tight hug, and I buried my face in his shoulder. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry you had to carry that alone for so long. I'm sorry I was too clueless to see it. I'm sorry I've wasted so much time. You didn't know, but I should have. Looking back now, there were so many signs. The way you'd look at me sometimes when you thought I wasn't watching. The way you'd get quiet when I talked about dating. The way you always knew exactly what I needed and when I needed it. I was just too blind to see it. We stayed like that for a long moment, holding each other in the morning light. Finally, Jake pulled back and cupped my face in his hands. I can't promise I won't make mistakes, he said. I can't promise this will be easy or that I won't freak out sometimes as I figure all of this out. But I can promise that I won't change my mind about you. I can promise that I'll be honest with you about what I'm feeling, even when it's confusing. And I can promise that I'll do everything I can to make this work, because losing you isn't an option. So what does this mean? I asked. What are we? I don't know. What do you want us to be? I took a deep breath. I want to be more than friends. I want to be able to kiss you whenever I want. I want to fall asleep in your arms and wake up next to you. I want to be the person you turn to with everything. I want what we've always had, but more. Jake smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. Then that's what we'll be. More. He kissed me again, soft and sweet and full of promise. When we broke apart, he was grinning. So, boyfriend, is that what we're calling this? God, that's weird to say. You don't have to call it anything you're not comfortable with. No, I want to. I want to call you my boyfriend. I want everyone to know you're mine, and I'm yours. I'm new at this. Be patient with me? Always, I promised. We spent the rest of the morning in bed, talking about everything and nothing. Jake had a million questions about being in a relationship with a guy, about what it meant, about how to navigate everything. I answered what I could and admitted when I didn't know. Because the truth was, this was new for both of us, in different ways. I'd dated guys before, but I'd never dated my best friend. I'd never been with someone who knew me this completely. I should probably tell my family. Jake said at one point, and I felt him tense against me.
Oh, hey.
You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. No, I want to. They love you already. They've basically considered you part of the family since sophomore year. I don't know how they'll react to this. To me being with a guy? To me not being who they thought I was? Your parents are good people, Jake. They might be surprised, but I think they'll come around. What about my friends? The guys on the soccer team? Some of them are pretty, he trailed off. You don't owe anyone an explanation or announcement. We can take this at whatever pace feels right for you. But I don't want to hide you, Jake said firmly. I don't want you to feel like I'm ashamed or keeping you secret. I know you're not. This is a lot to process. We can figure it out together. Kissed my forehead. What did I do to deserve you? You showed up at the art department instead of engineering and bought me terrible coffee. He laughed, and the sound filled me with warmth. Best wrong turn I ever made. The next few weeks were a blur of discovery and adjustment. Jake threw himself into our relationship with the same intensity he brought to everything else in his life. He wanted to know everything what I liked, what felt good, how to make me happy. He researched LGBTQ+ issues and terminology like he was studying for a final exam. He asked me endless questions, some profound and some adorably clueless. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Jake had moments of panic, times when the weight of redefining his entire identity hit him all at once. He'd get quiet and distant, and I'd have to fight my own insecurities and fears that he was having second thoughts. One night, about 3 weeks in, I found him sitting on the couch in the dark, staring at nothing. Jake, what's wrong? He looked up at me and I could see tears in his eyes. I told my parents today. My heart dropped. How did it go? My dad didn't say much. He just kind of nodded and left the room. My mom. He wiped at his eyes. She cried. She said she needed time to process. She asked me if I was sure, if maybe I was just confused. She said she loved me, but that she never expected this. I sat down next to him and pulled him into my arms. I'm so sorry. The worst part is, she asked about you. She asked if you'd turned me gay, or if I'd caught feelings because we'd spent so much time together, like you'd corrupted me or something. And I got so angry, Alex. I told her that you were the best thing that ever happened to me, that you'd done nothing but make me happy. But she just looked at me like I was a stranger. Give them time, I said, even though my heart was breaking for him. This is a lot for them to process, too. What if they never accept it? What if I lose them? Then they're losing out on knowing the incredible person you are. But I don't think that'll happen. Your parents love you. They might need time, but they'll come around. Jake clung to me, and I held him while he cried. It was one of the hardest moments we'd faced. Seeing him torn between his family and his identity, between who he'd always been and who he was becoming. But slowly, things started to get better. His mom called a week later, apologizing for her initial reaction. She said she'd been talking to a friend whose son was gay, and it had helped her understand. She asked if she could meet with both of us, talk things through. His dad took longer, but eventually he came around too. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Jake's friends were surprisingly supportive. Most of them just shrugged and said they were happy for him. A few of the guys on the soccer team made awkward jokes at first, but Jake shut that down quickly. He was finding his footing, figuring out how to exist in the world as this new version of himself. And through it all, we had each other. We developed new routines. Morning coffee together before class, where Jake would steal sips from my cup, even though he had his own. Study sessions that inevitably ended in distraction when one of us would lean over for just one kiss that turned into many more. Late-night conversations where we mapped out our futures and tried to figure out how to make them align. What happens after graduation? Jake asked one night as we lay in bed. We haven't really talked about it. Oh no, I admitted. I have that job offer in Seattle. You have interviews in 3 different cities. Seattle's one of them, he said quietly. What? I have an interview with a company there next month. I wasn't going to mention it because I didn't want to seem like I was following you or being clingy or whatever. But the truth is, when I think about my future, you're in it. And Seattle sounds pretty good if you're there. My heart swelled. You'd move across the country with me? I'd move anywhere with you. You're home, Alex. Wherever you are, that's where I want to be.
Ow.
But your family's here. Your friends will still be my family and friends no matter where I live. But you, I don't want to do long distance. I don't want to be in different cities, only seeing each other on holidays and random weekends. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to build a life together. You really sure about this? About us? About changing your whole life for this relationship? Jake turned to face me fully, his expression serious. Alex, you're not just this relationship. You're everything. You're my best friend, my partner, the person who knows me better than anyone else in the world, the person I want to share every good day and bad day with. I've never been more sure about anything. I love you, I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. I'm in love with you, and I have been for so long, and I never thought I'd get to say it out loud. I love you too, Jake said, and there were tears in his eyes. I'm still figuring out what that means for me, what kind of love this is. It's how it fits into everything I thought I knew about myself. But I know I love you. I know you're the person I choose every single day. We kissed, and it felt like a promise, like the ceiling of something we'd both been building toward since that first day we got lost trying to find the engineering. Building graduation came and went in a blur of ceremonies and parties and bittersweet goodbyes. Jake got the job in Seattle. We found an apartment together, a tiny 1-bedroom in Capitol Hill, with barely enough room for both our stuff, but with a view of the city that made up for it. The move was chaotic and stressful and perfect. We argued about where to put furniture and whose dishes to keep and how to split the bills. We made friends with our neighbors, an elderly gay couple who'd been together for 40 years and who took us under their wing. We found our favorite coffee shop, our favorite pizza place, our favorite spot in the park where we'd go to watch the sunset. Jake thrived in his new job. He made friends quickly, joined a local soccer league, and seemed more comfortable in his own skin than I'd ever seen him. He came out to his coworkers within the first month, casually mentioning his boyfriend in conversation, like it was the most natural thing in the world, and slowly, the boy who'd been confused and scared became the man who was confident and sure. Not because he had all the answers, but because he'd stopped needing them. He knew who he was, someone who loved soccer and terrible action movies and me. Everything else was just details. One night, about 6 months after the move, Jake came home from work with a strange expression on his face. What's wrong? I asked immediately. Nothing's wrong. I ran into Marcus today. Marcus. The guy I'd gone on that date with, the one who'd triggered Jake's realization about his feelings. Oh, that must have been weird. But also kind of closure? I don't know. We talked for a bit, and he mentioned he was engaged now, and I was genuinely happy for him. But then he said something that's been stuck in my mind all day. What did he say? He said you were one of the good ones, and he hoped whoever ended up with you knew how lucky they were. And I told him that I did. I told him I knew exactly how lucky I was. Jake crossed the room and pulled me into his arms. Do you remember that night when I couldn't sleep? When I came into your room and told you everything? How could I forget? I keep thinking about what would have happened if I hadn't said anything. If I'd kept it all locked inside, too scared to risk our friendship, we would have graduated, gone our separate ways, and I would have spent the rest of my life wondering what could have been. But you did say something, I reminded him, because I couldn't not, because the thought of losing you was worse than the fear of taking the risk. And every single day since then, I'm grateful I took that chance. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Alex. You always have been, even before I understood what that meant. You're the best thing that ever happened to me too, I said softly. Yeah, he smiled. Even though I was a clueless straight guy who took forever to figure out his feelings. Especially because of that. Because you didn't let labels or fear or expectations stop you from being honest. Because you chose love over everything else. Jake kissed me, soft and sweet and full of promise. Best sleepover ever, he murmured against my lips. I laughed. Is that what we're calling it? The night that changed everything. The night I finally got my head out of my ass and realized what had been right in front of me all along. We stood there in our tiny Seattle apartment, holding each other as the city lights twinkled outside our window, and I thought about that scared college sophomore who'd confessed his feelings in a moment of drunken bravery, never imagining his best friend would be standing next to him through everything. I thought about the years of hiding and hoping and hurting. I thought about how close we'd come to never having this at all. Jake said, breaking into my thoughts. Where'd you go? Just thinking about how much has changed. Good changes? The best changes, I confirmed. Good. Because I have plans for us, you know? Big plans? Oh yeah. What kind of plans? He grinned. You'll have to wait and see. But they involve us, this city, and a whole lot of tomorrows together. That sounds perfect. And it was. Not because everything was easy or simple or figured out, but because we had each other and that was enough. More than enough. Jake was right that night when he said he didn't want to waste time pretending or hiding. We'd already wasted too much time dancing around our feelings, held back by fear and labels and expectations. But now, standing in our home, building our life together, none of that mattered anymore. What mattered was the way Jake looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching, like I was something precious and miraculous. What mattered was the way we'd learned to navigate conflict, to communicate, to support each other through the hard stuff. What mattered was the way we made each other laugh, the way we challenged each other to be better, the way we'd built something real and lasting from the foundation of our friendship. People say, you shouldn't date your best friend because if it doesn't work out, you lose everything. But what they don't tell you is that when it does work out, and you find that person who's both your partner and your favorite person in the world, it's magic. It's coming home. It's everything you didn't know you needed. Jake had gone from my straight best friend to the love of my life. And the journey between those 2 points had been terrifying and beautiful and absolutely worth every moment of uncertainty. You know what I realized today? Jake said, pulling me back to the present moment. What's that? That night when I slept over in your room, when we first kissed, I think part of me knew, even then, that we were crossing a line we'd never uncross. And I was scared, but I was also relieved. Like I'd been holding my breath for months, maybe years, and I finally let myself breathe again. You never told me that. I was too busy trying to figure out what the hell I was feeling to articulate it properly. But looking back now, I can see it clearly. I'd been falling for you for so long without recognizing it for what it was. And that night, I finally let myself fall. And did you regret it? Ever. Even for a moment. Jake cupped my face in his hands, his eyes intense and sure. Not even once. Not even for a second. You're it for me, Alex. You're the one. Those words settled into my chest, warm and solid and true. This was real. This wasn't a dream or a fantasy or wishful thinking. This was my life now, and it was better than anything I could have imagined. Later that night, as we got ready for bed, I caught Jake watching me in the mirror. What? I asked, smiling at his expression, just appreciating the view. I threw a pillow at him and he caught it, laughing. These were the moments I treasured most. Not the big declarations or dramatic gestures, but the ordinary. Everyday intimacy of sharing a life with someone who knew all your weird habits and loved you anyway. We climbed into bed, and Jake immediately pulled me close, wrapping himself around me like he always did. His solid presence, the steady rhythm of his breathing, the warmth of his body against Minute, all felt like home. Hey, Alex, he murmured, already half asleep. Thank you for being patient with me, for giving me time to figure myself out, for not giving up on us. Always, I whispered. I'd wait forever for you. You won't have to, he promised. I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. Good. That's exactly where I want you. As Jake's breathing evened out and he drifted off to sleep, I lay awake for a while longer, thinking about everything we'd been through. The friendship, the confusion, the fear, the courage it took to change everything. The risk had been enormous, but the reward was everything. I thought about that first night, waking up with Jake's arm around me and his face buried in my neck. How terrified I'd been, how sure I was that it would all fall apart. But it hadn't. Instead, it had been the beginning of something incredible. My straight best friend had slept over and changed the entire trajectory of our lives. He'd discovered parts of himself he never knew existed. He'd chosen love over fear, authenticity over expectations, and together, we'd built something beautiful from the ashes of what we used to be. People would probably say we moved too fast, that Jake should have taken more time to explore his identity before committing to a relationship. But they didn't understand that we'd spent 4 years building the foundation. They didn't know about the late-night conversations, the shared dreams, the way we'd been partners in everything but name long before we ever kissed. Jake wasn't my straight best friend anymore. He wasn't my confused best friend either. He was just Jake, my partner, my home, my future, and that was more than enough. The next morning I woke up to Jake pressing soft kisses along my shoulder. "Morning," I mumbled, still half asleep. "Morning, beautiful." He nuzzled into my neck. I was thinking dangerous. He laughed and pinched my side gently. "I was thinking we should take a trip. Maybe this weekend? There's this cabin in the mountains I heard about, and I thought it might be nice to get away from the city for a bit." "Just us? That sounds perfect. Yeah?" He propped himself up on his elbow, looking down at me with soft eyes. "I want to make sure we're taking time for us, you know? With work and everything, it's easy to get caught up in the routine. But you're my priority, Alex. Us. We're my priority." I reached up and ran my fingers through his messy hair. "How did I get so lucky?" "I think we both got lucky. We found each other, figured out what we had, and were brave enough to go after it. That's not luck, that's choice. And I choose you every single day. I choose you too. Always have, always will." We kissed, slow and unhurried, savoring the quiet morning intimacy. There was nowhere else to be, nothing else that mattered in that moment, except the two of us and the life we were building together. Eventually, we got up and started our morning routine. Jake made coffee while I cooked eggs. We moved around each other in the small kitchen with the ease of people who'd learned each other's rhythms. He'd steal bites of food while I was plating. I'd sneak sips of his coffee when he wasn't looking. It was domestic and ordinary and absolutely perfect. You know, Jake said as we sat down to eat, "A year ago, if someone had told me I'd be living in Seattle with my boyfriend, I would have thought they were crazy. And now it's the most natural thing in the world. It's like my life before this was just preparation. Everything led me here, to you, to this. And I wouldn't change a single thing, not even the hard parts. Coming out? Your mom's initial reaction? All the times you freaked out because it was new and scary? Not even those parts," Jake said firmly, "because they made me stronger. They helped me figure out who I really am. And every hard moment was worth it, because I got to go through it with you." We finished breakfast and got ready for work. As Jake grabbed his keys and headed for the door, he paused and turned back to me. "Love you," he said, like he was still getting used to saying the words out loud, still marveling at the fact that he could. "I love you too," I replied, the same as I did every morning. The door closed behind him, and I stood there in our apartment, surrounded by the life we'd built. Photos on the walls, his jacket thrown over the back of the couch, both our names on the lease. All the small, tangible proof that this was real. My straight best friend had slept over one night. Everything had changed. He'd discovered parts of himself he never knew existed. He'd chosen to be brave, to be honest, to take a risk on something that terrified him. And in doing so, he'd given us both something incredible. People talk about coming out like it's a single moment, a one-time declaration. But Jake taught me that it's really a series of choices, choosing authenticity over fear, love over expectation, truth over comfort. It's the choice he made every time he introduced me as his boyfriend. Every time he held my hand in public. Every time he stood up for our relationship and his identity. And I got to witness all of it. I got to see him transform from a confused guy questioning everything he knew about himself into a confident man who knew exactly who he was and what he wanted. I got to be there for every moment of doubt, every breakthrough, every small victory later that day. I got a text from Jake. Can't stop thinking about that cabin trip. Just booked it. This weekend. You, me, mountains, and no distractions. Can't wait. I smiled down at my phone, my heart full. This was my life now, spontaneous weekend trips with the man I loved. Building memories and moments and a future together. That night, when Jake came home from work, he immediately pulled me into his arms. Rough day? I asked. No, just missed you. Is that allowed? To miss your boyfriend even when you saw him just this morning? Definitely allowed. He ordered Thai food and curled up on the couch to watch a movie. Halfway through, Jake turned to me with a thoughtful expression. Can I tell you something? Always. I was talking to one of my coworkers today, Sarah, the one who's been with her wife for like 10 years. And she was talking about how they knew pretty early on that they were it for each other. How it just felt right in a way nothing else ever had. Okay, I realize that's how I feel about you. Like this just fits. Like we're meant to be together. And I know I'm still relatively new to all of this, still figuring out being in a relationship with a guy. But Alex, I'm not new to loving you. I've been doing that for years, even when I didn't recognize it. So when I say I want forever with you, it's not me rushing into something I don't understand. It's me finally acknowledging what's been true all along. My throat tightened with emotion. Jake, I'm not saying we need to run out and get married tomorrow or anything. I wanted you to know that this isn't some phase or experiment for me. You're it. You're my person. And I can't imagine a future that doesn't have you in it. You're my person too, I managed to say. You always have been. Kissed me, and it tasted like promise and forever and coming home. When we broke apart, we were both smiling. So about this cabin trip, Jake said, his tone lighter now. I may have requested some specific amenities. Like what? A fireplace. A hot tub. No Wi-Fi. And most importantly, privacy. I want to spend the whole weekend just focused on us. No phones, no work, no distractions. Just you and me. That sounds absolutely perfect. And it was. That weekend in the mountains became one of my favorite memories. We hiked through forests, cooked meals together in the tiny cabin kitchen, soaked in the hot tub under the stars, and made love by the fireplace while snow fell outside. It was romantic and intimate and everything I'd ever dreamed of. On the last night, as we lay tangled together in front of the dying fire, Jake traced patterns on my skin and talked about his dreams for the future. I want to travel with you, he said. See the world. Maybe buy a house someday, one with a yard where we can get a dog. I want Sunday mornings sleeping in and Tuesday nights watching bad TV. I want all of it. Alex, the boring stuff and the exciting stuff and everything in between. I want that too, I whispered. Good, because I plan on sticking around for a very long time. When we drove back to the city, I felt like something had solidified between us even more, like we'd crossed another threshold, made another unspoken commitment to each other in our future. Life settled back into its rhythm. Work, friends, lazy weekends, date nights. We fought sometimes about stupid things like dishes or whose turn it was to take out the trash. But we always worked through it, always came back to each other, always chose us. Jake's relationship with his parents continued to improve. They came to visit for Thanksgiving, and while things were a bit awkward at first, by the end of the weekend, his mom was showing me old photo albums and his dad was helping Jake fix our perpetually broken dishwasher. They accepted us, accepted our relationship, and slowly started to see me not just as their son's best friend, but as his partner. My own family had always been supportive, and they welcomed Jake with open arms. My mom pulled me aside during Christmas and told me she'd never seen me happier, that Jake clearly adored me, and that she was thrilled we'd found each other. I always thought you two would be good together, she admitted. Even back in college when you first started bringing him home for holidays, the way you looked at each other, the way you moved around each other like you were choreographed it was obvious to everyone except apparently the two of you. Really? Really, your sister and I used to joke about it. We kept waiting for one of you to figure it out. It was surreal to think that our feelings had been that obvious, that transparent to the people who knew us best. But I guess love has a way of showing itself even when we're trying to hide it. A year passed, then another. We moved to a bigger apartment, adopted a rescue dog named Murphy, traveled to 6 different countries. Jake got promoted. I started a side project that turned into a small, successful business. We've built a life, piece by piece, day by day, choice by choice, and through it all, we stayed best friends. That foundation never changed. We still had our late-night talks, still made each other laugh until we couldn't breathe, still showed up for each other in all the ways that mattered. Jake grew more comfortable in his identity. He started volunteering with an LGBTQ+ youth group, mentoring young guys who were struggling with coming out or questioning their sexuality. He said it helped him process his own journey, to see himself reflected in their struggles and triumphs. I wish I'd had someone like this when I was figuring things out, he told me after one particularly emotional session. Someone who'd been through it and come out the other side happy. You're going to make such a difference in their lives, I said, and I meant it. Jake had a way of making people feel seen and understood. It was one of the things I loved most about him. 3 years after that first night when Jake slept over, we were back in that same small bedroom in our old apartment. We'd come back to our college town for a friend's wedding. Everything looked different and smaller than I remembered, but the bed was the same. This is where it all started, Jake said, standing in the doorway and looking around with a nostalgic smile. Where you finally figured out you had feelings for me? You mean, where I finally stopped lying to myself, he corrected. The feelings were there long before that. I was just too stubborn or scared or clueless to acknowledge them. He walked over to the bed and sat down, patting the spot next to him. I joined him, and we sat there side by side, shoulders touching. If I could go back and talk to the version of me from that night, Jake said softly, I'd tell him to stop being so afraid. I'd tell him that taking this risk was going to be the best decision he ever made. That yeah, it would be scary and confusing sometimes, but it would also be incredible. That 3 years later, he'd be sitting here with you, happier than he ever thought possible. What would you tell the version of me from that night? I'd tell him that his feelings were reciprocated, that he wouldn't have to hide anymore, that his best friend was falling in love with him too, even if that best friend was too oblivious to realize it yet. And I'd thank him for being patient, for not giving up on me, even when I was being an idiot. You were never an idiot. You were just figuring things out, semantics, Jake said with a grin. He turned to face me fully. Alex, I need to tell you something. My heart started beating faster. Something about his tone made me nervous. Okay, I've been carrying this around for weeks, trying to find the right moment. And then we ended up here in this room where everything changed for us, and I realized this is the right moment. This is where it should happen. Jake, you're kind of freaking me out. What's going on? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. My breath caught. I know we're young, he said, his voice shaking slightly. I know we technically haven't been together that long in the grand scheme of things. But Alex, I've loved you for years. I've built my entire life around you. And I don't want to wait anymore to make this official. To tell the world that you're mine and I'm yours forever. He opened the box, revealing 2 simple silver bands. I'm not great at speeches, Jake continued, but I'm great at knowing what I want, and I want you. I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life. I want to build a home with you, a family with you, a future with you. I want to be there for all your successes and all your failures, all your happy days and all your hard ones. I want everything, Alex, with you. Always with you. Tears were streaming down my face. Jake, so what do you say? Will you marry me? Will you be my husband and my partner and my best friend for the rest of our lives? Yes, I managed to choke out. Yes, absolutely yes. Jake's face broke into the biggest smile I'd ever seen. He slipped one of the rings onto my finger, and I did the same for him, our hands shaking with emotion and adrenaline and joy. Then he kissed me, and it felt like that first kiss all over again, terrifying and perfect and full of promise. Except this time, there was no uncertainty, No fear, no hesitation. Just love and certainty and the knowledge that we were choosing each other, again and again and again. "I love you," Jake said, when we finally broke apart. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes." "I love you too. More than anything." We stayed in that room for hours, talking about our future, making plans, dreaming out loud about the life we wanted to build. It felt right, being here where it all began, now engaged in planning our forever, that night. As we lay in bed with the moonlight streaming through the window, Jake pulled me close. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For loving me when I was too confused to love myself. For being patient while I figured things out. For taking a chance on us, even though it could have cost us our friendship. For being my best friend and my lover and my home. For saying yes. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me how you felt that night. For not letting fear win. For choosing love over everything else." "Best sleepover ever," Jake said with a soft laugh, echoing what he'd said years ago. "Best sleepover ever," Jake said with a soft laugh, echoing what he'd said years ago. "Best sleepover ever," I agreed, as I drifted off to sleep in his arms. In the same bed where our story had really begun, I thought about how far we'd come. From best friends to lovers to fiancés. From confusion and fear to certainty and love. From hiding feelings to shouting them from the rooftops. My straight best friend had slept over one night, and in doing so, he'd changed both our lives forever. He'd discovered parts of himself he never knew existed. He'd learned that identity is fluid, that love doesn't follow rules. Sometimes the person you're meant to be with is the one who's been there all along, and I'd learned that sometimes. Patience pays off, that love is worth the risk, that the best relationships are built on foundations of friendship and trust and mutual respect. People would probably write articles about us someday, the straight guy who fell for his gay best friend, the queer love story that started with a sleepover. But to us, it was just our story. Messy and beautiful and imperfect and absolutely perfect all at the same time. Jake was right that first morning after we got together. We were more than friends now. We were everything best friends, lovers, partners, and soon-to-be husbands. We were home to each other, anchors in the storm, lights in the darkness, and it all started with one brave conversation, one risk taken. One night when my straight best friend slept over and woke up realizing he wasn't as straight as he thought. The rest, as they say, is history. Our history, the one we're still writing, day by day, moment by moment, choice by choice. And I can't wait to see what comes next. The end. What happens next. Thank you so much for reading Alex and Jake's story. If you felt the emotions, the tension, and the love between these two, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below telling me which moment hit you the hardest. Should I tell you what happened at their wedding? Or maybe their first fight as an engaged couple? Let me know in the comments. Drop A if you believe love has no labels, and drop A if you want part 2.